Hello, everyone. This is Ted Check, social media manager for the International Foundation for Protection Officers. I'm here with Charles Chuck Andrews, aka Friends of Chuck. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about, we're going to talk about Friends of Chuck. We're going to talk about the IFPO. We're going to talk about the state of the security industry in light of the coronavirus. So Chuck, how you doing today?
Doing great, Ted. It's great to be out here. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, at our Buckhaven Ranch. So it was a nice 57 degrees this morning. Very
Sounds
calm,
great.
very cool.
Yeah, and well, sometimes nowhere is exactly where you want to be, right?
Absolutely. And this is, as we say as Texans, this is really a piece of heaven, what we call the hill country. It's quite the place to come out to, and with everything that's going on, it's really nice, and we're very blessed to be out here.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I got to say, Chuck, the last time we talked, you had a black hat. You were the man in black. Now you've got this massive straw hat with a is that a pheasant feather in it?
Yeah, it's not a pheasant, so that's a turkey feather from
Oh,
a
okay.
Rio Grande. The Rio Grandes are pretty much the domestic turkeys of Texas, and there's different versions of them. So it brings you good luck. And look, the hat needs an explanation, I know. So let me give one. So
Okay.
Friends Chuck is known for the hats. No, you described it correctly. That was the black one that I wear is a beaver hat. And out here, when you're working, your girth and diameter and circumference of a hat is very important.
Okay.
Very
All right.
muy importante.
All
And the
right.
reason why is because unless you want your dermatologist to yell at you, you better wear a wide brim hat because the sun is not your friend. Now with CV-19, the sun is your friend, right?
Right. That's correct. So
And
we've heard.
so, but you get more than enough sunshine out here, and you have to take precautions, just kind of like what we're doing with CV-19, taking precautions, using
Yeah.
common sense,
Right.
your safety and the safety of others. So that's why we got the big hat today. This is the
Great.
working hat of Friends of Chuck at his Buckhaven Ranch.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and you brought up Friends of Chuck. What is that? For those who don't know, what exactly is Friends of Chuck?
Well, it's an alien planet. Well, that's a different explanation. Let me give you the earthly description of that. So, Friends of
Okay.
Chuck is a group I started about 7 years ago, and it started really based on some irony, right? Where basically you spend a lifetime developing friendships and relationships and colleagues in the industry,
Sure.
and by doing that, it just made sense to me that really this industry is about relationships. So Friends of Chuck started and is still just as informal as it's always been. It's all about that Chuck knows you and you know Chuck, and we get an opportunity to do business together, build long lasting quality friendships. And we're talking about friendships over finances, an
Okay.
opportunity to launch and be involved in new innovation and technology in the security world, both cyber and digital, as the case would be, networking, and much more. So, Friends of Chuck is about 100,000 plus people now in 100 countries
Wow.
with 1 degree of separation. And that's what this business is all about, right? Relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's who you know. You know, we've heard that so often. It's not what you know, but it's who you know. Connections are important in business. Absolutely, vital, in fact.
Very
So you've
critical.
got. I understand. Friends of Chuck has three tenets that you live by. What are
That's
those?
that's right. Number one, dream big, right? There's no sense doing anything else in life. You got to be
Right.
passionate about what you do, whether you make money or not. Otherwise, life is really not worth the quality of living.
Hmm.
Number two, know how to have fun. If
All
you're going
right.
to do it, you got to have some fun involved with it. Otherwise, where's the joy, love, peace, and all the good stuff that can come out of it? And lastly, well, at Friends of Chuck, we get shit done. That's the bottom line.
There you go.
Whether we're
There you
at the
go.
ranch or in the city or on a project or building out new innovation and technology, listen, we get things done, and that makes you feel good about getting the kind of self-esteem back that you want, knowing that you can accomplish things. Dream big, know how to have fun, and get shit done.
There you go. Yeah, right. That sense of accomplishment, I think, is important in everybody's lives. I mean, really, you know.
Absolutely. So it's even more than that, because if you're going to tell somebody you're going to do something, you do it to your very best, right?
Hmm.
My dad, who passed away a few months ago, taught me, like, if you're going to borrow something, we have a rule. And that rule is you return it better than you got it,
Hmm.
right? So if you use that lawnmower, you fill it back up with gas and you clean it up and you return it, because those are the kinds of people who will always come back to you, always be your friend, always allow you to use that lawnmower again without question,
Yeah.
right? So that's a golden rule that I've always adhered to.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's important is the follow through. You know, there was a Seinfeld episode where he was trying to rent a car, and he got frustrated, and he said, "You know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation," and that's the important part, the holding. So it's the
Right.
follow through. That's the important. You know, saying I'm going to do something is one thing, but actually seeing something through all the way to completion, that's another thing. And I mean, I've that's been a challenge in my life, you know, through various times. And
Sure.
I think other people, it's the same way. It's tough to follow through.
Actions speak louder than words, bottom line.
There you go. All right. So, and Chuck, you, in addition to the ranch that you have, you are a, well, I can't say the word consultant. You don't like to use that word. Tell us
No.
what is you are an advisor. You're a security advisor. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. As an advisor, this is exactly what you do: is you advise. After you've gained enough wisdom, knowledge, experience, geography, had enough failures, um, uh, being an advisor becomes important to companies. And I'm a strategist as well. And that's what my whole world has kind of evolved to do, is having a holistic understanding down to the very microscopic pieces that are moving, right? Because what
Okay.
people forget, two things in all of business that you can apply. The little things are the most important things. And with the maintenance, you're going to fail. Everybody fails at maintenance, but
Mm,
nobody pays attention to it, right?
okay.
So as a strategist, you have to consider those things. So I've kind of find myself at that point in life and building new innovation and technology and helping other companies understand a very complicated, um, basically I usually say Chinese checkers, right? It's very complicated, right? All the moves, where do they go? What do the colors mean? What's the strategy of winning, right? But it's chess, right? And if you don't understand the chessboard, that's one thing. But what about the actual chess pieces themselves? What's the quality of that chess piece? Where did it come from? What's its weight, shape, diameter? What's its meaning and interpretation? How is it played? Right, in the game, you have to get into the details. Why? Because the details matter.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And you've got a new project that you're working on, Chuck. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. You're kind of exploring a new pathway for Friends of Chuck that you had not previously ventured into.
Yeah, so Fridge of Chuck becoming more of a formal organization and group. You have to excuse me, I'm darting off because there's a group of deer about 25 feet away from me, and
Oh
they're all
wow!
staring at me, needing some apple corn. Imagine that. They like to eat, and I know when we come
All
out
right.
to the ranch. So apologies. So
No, that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So listen, Friends of Chuck has started Friends of Chuck Media Group, right? So we're doing everything that you can imagine in the world of marketing and branding, but we're going to do it differently, right? Let me give you an
Okay.
example. Just recently, I just came out of post production. So one of the big things that's going to hit the security industry, and matter of fact, all industries around the world post CV-19, is work, getting a job,
Mm, indeed.
being
Yeah.
employed, being able to provide for your family. So now it's going to be very competitive out there in terms of
Absolutely.
trying to find a job. So when you go out and look for a job, what do? Well, there's things you used to do in the past, and like you kind of, maybe it was you were a kid and you could go to work for the guy who owned the air conditioning company down the street, that kind of thing. But it's all changed in a very big way, right?
Hmm.
And but some of the things still hold true. You have a resume, you submit it, you go online, fill out an application, and you hope and pray that somebody will call you so you can get an interview.
Yeah.
If you can get an interview, that's where it's critical. So we're going to change that up. For the security industry, both cyber and physical traditional, we're going to take and do a 5 to 10 minute, real quick, punchy, to the point resume interview. And it's a story about you. Just like you're on camera now, I'm going to put you on camera, right? Through a new series I'm calling hashtag Job Talk. All right.
All
It's going to
right.
be part of the new series that's coming out under Friends of Chuck Media called Security Talk Now. That's right. We talk about the buzz and the chatter of security around the world. And we're going to be featuring this job talk and actually put people out there in front of 1 million, 500,000, whatever number we can through social media, very strategically, so people can see who, what, when, where, how, and why. What do they look like? How do they talk? How do they act? What are the knowledge, skills, abilities, competencies, experiences, and proficiencies of that individual? And you're going to hear it quick and fast, and you can make a decision whether you'd like them to come to work for your company or interview. Secondly, though, as friends of Chuck, as a colleague of the security industry, maybe you could take a few seconds and send an email of encouragement to that person on LinkedIn if you don't have their email, but that will be featured on the actual video itself, and help that person, maybe point them in the right direction, give them a little coaching, a little motivation. Maybe you know somebody that they should talk to about
Hmm.
working in the space that they want to work in. This is a way that as a community, we can help each other find jobs, because there's nothing more valuable, especially if you're in the law enforcement, security, cyberspace, than having a job, having
Right.
self-worth,
Yep.
providing for your family, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, there's nothing more important to that, right? And people need to work, and we're going to help put them to work. We're just going to do it the Friends of Chuck way.
That's great. You're really harnessing the power of this vast network that you have amassed over the years, and yeah, there is a brotherhood there in the industry, brotherhood, sisterhood, and so yeah, hopefully, somebody out there can help these folks that you're going to highlight. How often do
Yeah.
you figure you're going to do that? You're gonna do a job talk where you've got this like little video resume, if you will. How often do you hope to do those?
I haven't even advertised this, and we haven't even launched this, and I've done 3 and I have 7 more asking me to do this.
Okay.
So as time allows and we work out, good production, post-production, we want to do something quality.
Sure.
And listen, when you put, and this is about the expertise around learning, right, through a lot of trial and error and a lot of failure, you have to make yourself different. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to step outside your comfort zone, right? You need a big
Yes.
hat. That's what you need, right? You need something that's unique to you that will draw people's attention, right?
Hmm.
And that's what you need. You just need to get to first base. And in the job market, first base is the interview. Get yourself to the interview.
Right.
And
Seat at the
now the
table.
work really begins. And I'll be doing coaching and advising all the way around to second base, third base, and home base, home plate,
Home
where
plate when
you're
you
going to
land the
get an
job.
offer. Right, exactly. And then how do you negotiate for a salary, right? And that's all based on, remember the 3 things I had talked about: strategy, intelligence, and relationships. Those combined, you can help make good decisions, and have somebody out there as your coach and your advocate and your champion to help you, who have been there and done that, both hired and helped on both ends.
Fantastic, Chuck. That really is. And I have to tell you, the IFPO is here for you. Is here for Friends of Chuck. We will do whatever we can to promote Security Talk Now and Job Talk. When you release those videos, we'll be more than happy to push those on our social media platforms as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. The IFPO is a great organization, been around 30 years. CEO and part of the original, founder of that whole group, Sandy Davies. What a wonderful lady! Just
Yeah.
a leadership and women in security. She's just a great human being, and helping all those security officers front line with education and training and the camaraderie, right? That they can
Yeah.
go to obviously work their way up, right? Up the opportunity chain. It's a terrific group. Friends of Truck supports IFPO. And I think you guys have you're 501c3, correct?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit. Absolutely.
Yep.
Based in
I think
Florida.
you've got 17 board members, right, that help really run this from all aspects of the security business, right? Great
Oh, for
people.
sure. Yep.
Yep. I think I know the majority of them.
Hmm.
Ron Martin comes into play, right?
Yep.
He's
He used to
my
work for the
dear.
federal government. We have retired federal government workers, retired military, college professors. So from all aspects of security, and these individuals coalescing and making up the board, driving the IFPO, and yeah, so we've got a number of certifications from novice all the way through to management. We offer these certifications. We have special discounts for making the transition from military to security and law enforcement to security. So yeah, we're really covering it, the full spectrum of security certifications. And here's the book. This one right here, the Professional Protection Officer. This is the textbook that you study for the CPO, the
Yep.
Certified Protection Officer exam. That's kind of our flagship, but we have other ones too. We've got the CSSM, Certified Security Supervision and Management, that certification. And then if you want to be an instructor, the CPOI, Certified Protection Officer Instructor. So yeah, you can see we've got a wide array of certifications at the IFPO.
Yeah, I just think, there's a video I did, I think you're familiar with, right? Trying to recognize the frontline security officer in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
Mario was his name.
Yep.
Didn't know him, didn't know his security company, but wow, the professionalism he exhibited while working his post, offering gloves and masks and getting the door so you didn't have to touch the door. What a great ambassador, an example of a security officer. And this guy's been doing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then look, I think Ron Martin, I think on your board saw the video that I posted on that.
He did, yeah.
And he was able to plug Mario right into the CPO program with a scholarship. What a great thing, right?
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic.
a great opportunity. Hopefully, you'll get to follow up with that young man on how he is doing in the program in the future. That was
Yeah, I talked with Ron after that, and yeah, so I'm also a newspaper reporter, so I have those skills, like interviewing skills. So I'm gonna catch up with Mario, and we'll do a feature story on him for our
Terrific.
website, which will then of course launch on all of our social media.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'll be great.
Yep. Well, speaking of Mario, Chuck, let's talk about the security industry as a whole in the United States in light of the onset of the coronavirus. We on IFPO.org, we've covered the virus in terms of loss of jobs. We've seen areas that are heavy into tourism, like Las Vegas, Orlando, Nashville, Tennessee. Those areas have lost a lot of security jobs. But then I'm seeing other reports, say out in, I forget the name of the company, but a company out in California hiring 500 security officers. I've seen a lot of reports like that because other businesses that have had to unfortunately shut down, they realize, hey, you know what? I need protection for my business so that it doesn't get looted. So we're seeing kind of an ebb and a flow as in terms of jobs with the industry. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, that's exactly what is going on. Maybe a little bit more insight from, remember, we go back to relationships and strategy. And in this case, we're going to talk about intelligence, right? Information that is out there. So security companies have been challenged over the last several years on getting enough talent acquisition, right? It's been really tough trying to find folks to, ironically, for a lot of things, which is a whole nother show in and of itself to be discussed. But now everybody needs a job. So you're literally having degreed people who need the work, right? And security companies are able to start filling these positions like they and unprecedented, right? Absolutely unprecedented, which is good. Now, what does that mean for the security company and the clients that they're actually taking security officers and putting them out on posts? That means that they're able to bring a higher qualified candidate as opposed to in the past where it was difficult to even get a candidate because
Right.
other people have lost their jobs in other industry verticals. And they've picking security as a new opportunity for them. So groups like IFPO and other groups, ASIS International, other security industry groups, it's good for those new people to start getting indoctrinated, right? And
Sure.
the
Sure.
training and understanding what the industry is as a profession. So this is going to create, a lot of opportunity out there as well. There's a lot of good things that are going to come out of such a terrible situation that's happened.
Yeah. So what do you see, Chuck? What do you see happening as we start to, get the economy rolling, as these stay-at-home orders hopefully start to be relaxed?
Mhm.
What do you see happening with the security industry at that point?
Well, I think so. Again, more intelligence, buzz and chatter, right, around the world. I'm hearing that a lot of these companies have found out that their employees, now we're talking about all industry verticals, are actually more productive working at home to
Hmm.
the tune of 8 times more productive.
Wow.
There are probably companies for years and years, and depending on the board of directors and the leadership of that company would dictate the whole work at home, right, opportunity. And
Right.
some companies recognize that and have yielded, big dividends as a result of that. So now companies are forced to do it, and now they're seeing the benefits by force majeure of this pandemic.
Okay.
And I have it on good authority that somewhere there's going to be people are guessing 30 to 40% of the workforce will not be moving back to brick and mortar. Look,
Wow.
your biggest costs in a company are personnel. And then you're talking about the assets that they have to work in, those brick and mortars, right?
Right.
If they don't have to pay those lease fees, they're getting more production, right, out of their employees by working from home. And I've always said that was a great idea. That's how I live and work my life for the last 10 years.
Okay.
Then they're not going to go back. So, what does that mean for the security world?
Hmm.
That could mean, the news may not be good because there'll be less buildings,
Right.
right?
Less brick and mortar, so less security officers.
Less need. And with
Hmm.
technology, right? You have technology. So, but, the jury's still out, right? We're going to have to see the data a year from now to really understand what that looks like for retail, mall, areas where traditionally you see a lot of uniform security traditionally working at.
Hmm.
Look, a lot of construction and what geography are you in the United States? If you're in New York, it has one meaning in Manhattan. If you're in Houston, Texas, completely another meaning. The pandemic was one thing, but with oil and gas, with all the loss that's hurt, I mean, can you imagine paying, 1 penny for a barrel of oil or less, right? I mean, it's affected and so it affects everybody else, right? We
Yeah.
don't need buildings because we have to, all these rifts taking place, right? And then you don't need the buildings and then you don't need security, right? People are working at home. It's going to be a big shift, right? Physical brick and mortar to domestic home commercial. So the cyber business is going to be good here in the future as it relates to domestic protections because the bad guys, would-be hackers, are now really focused on buying all that data in the deep dark web. Um,
Hmm.
Companies like Sixgill are companies that you can contract with and find out what's going on with your company brand leaking. Those companies are going to be very popular as it relates to you because the bad guys are now going to be focused on you and your ISP and your IP address as it relates to what you do. So everybody's going to have to be very careful. It's going to be a big shift going on.
Yeah, lot of changes. Wow.
A lot of changes.
Hopefully, see the thing that I wonder about though is, the workplace is, has been looked at as an environment, where people can, uh, socialize, get things done, get shit
Right.
done the Chuck way, but also to socialize. And with that piece of the pie kind of missing, does that affect workers' well-being? And, it seems like more and more
It does.
companies are concerned about that, with EAPs and things like that. Companies are it seems to be that they're more concerned about their employees' well-being, because if you have somebody who's doing well, then they arguably they'd be more productive for you. So I wonder if that's going to come into play at all.
Yeah, so we haven't seen that yet, right? There hasn't all the media is now covered up right now by, people are getting 27 different directions on when to wear a mask, when not to wear a mask, how far to stay away. Oh, look, CV-19 is not really that bad. It's not worse than the flu. All that noise is covering
Right.
up the mental health issues that are starting to surface, right?
Right.
I think, unfortunately, you're going to see issues with suicide, right? So we should talk about that. And without human beings being human, right, which means interaction and socializing and visiting and maybe even getting a big hug, right? That
Mm-hmm.
goes a long way. And you start depriving, basic humanity of those things, then things are going to start to fall apart. So it's great that at minimum we can have what you and I are doing, some virtual contact, so
Right.
people can hear your voice. And the voice is very powerful and very soothing. We need to keep all that up in the interim until such time that people can spend time together and gather, right? And listen, it's very basic to being human. You've
Oh,
got
absolutely.
to you've got to take the time to give your friend and loved ones a hug and sit down and talk to them and listen to them and be there for them. It's very human. And when you can't be human, people start to melt, and it's going to be a real issue. So we're going to have to EAP, as you said, employee assistance programs are going to take on, especially working from home, are going to take on a different approach, new policies, new best practices. They're going to have to be adopted under these circumstances. But eventually, I'll predict this. I'll make a big prediction.
Okay. All right.
So, as a society, we there's going to be it's a little meltdown, and people will get to a point where being with other human beings is much more important than the risk associated with where we are now with CV-19, right? So the curve is flattening concerning
Right.
the risks
Right.
around that, but there's a ton of noise. People are confused, angry, upset, right? And everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. And then at simultaneous to that, we're going to have a rise, right, in the mental health issues, and people are going to get to a peak and say, it's better that I be with someone and run that risk, right,
Right.
and take the chance, because my mental health is more important than my physical health. And I think we're seeing kind of the beginnings of that.
I think you're
We
right.
can only do about 90 days of this, right?
Yeah. Well, there's
And people,
that herd immunity too, right? I mean, maybe
sure.
it's time for that herd immunity to take over. We've done the stay at home quarantine thing for quite some time. And you're right. I think we're seeing this. I just saw a video today about a woman who, I guess she was, I forget where this was. I believe it was somewhere in the Midwest, judging by her
Mm-hmm.
accent. But her child was playing at another child's house, and there were some law enforcement that were attempting to advise her of the stay-at-home rule, and she was not pleased with that.
Right.
And but we've seen folks gathering outside of governors' mansions around the country, saying, "Hey,
Right.
look, it's time to get things rolling." And but with that, there is that aspect of security. With I was just reading about it in the the professional protection officer book about
There you
crowds,
go.
crowd control,
Yeah,
crowds, riots, protests, all that kind of
right.
stuff. So we might see a need for security if hopefully things don't get out of
Right.
control. Hopefully people can do things peaceably.
Yeah,
Peacefully.
no, you're right. And then thus the need for security will be necessary, right, as that barrier between people and assets and governments and institutions and buildings and private businesses. And so, right, again, security officer is on the front line. So equally as, or maybe part of the need goes down, it also goes up as a result of these societal issues, right, taking
Right.
shape and form, like you said, through protest or gatherings, or people just really upset and they engage in some level of criminal activity. Look, the jury's going to be out on this. There's no one fit answer for any of this. The only thing I
Right.
can tell you from my life experience is use common sense.
Mhm.
Take the totality of what you're hearing, right, and be safe for yourself and others. So think of yourself and others and use common sense. And there's some people, who are going to take radical positions, then and part of what they're trying to preach and represent and protest may be true and may be right, under these circumstances. But in the end, you have to make your own. You have to make your own decisions, right? And all I can do is employ people to use common sense in terms of being safe and being part of the community, right? And think about the community as a whole.
Absolutely. And, Chuck, as we close here, something that you just said about security officers being on the front lines, and I just wanted
Right.
to, and I'm sure you want to as well, thank all of those security officers like Mario and all of the other security officers
Absolutely.
who are on the front lines in this coronavirus pandemic. They are oftentimes the first responders. They're first on the scene wherever they're working, and they're putting themselves in harm's way. Hopefully they all have the proper protection. But props to them. That just a great job across the country, across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos. And that's why I took the time, and you and everyone listening and watching should as well, to recognize a security officer working on the front line and just say, be human enough to say, hey, thank you, right, for doing a great job. We do that for our military on a regular basis or
Yep.
for their service, right? But maybe at a time where it's pretty tough. And, we're doing that for medical staff and nursing and doctors and first responders. So
Right.
let's make sure we include the security officers in there. Look, only good can come from it, right? Right,
Oh yeah.
and which is true of always saying a nice word to people for out there doing it, especially under these circumstances. It's just a nice thing to do, and during a tough time, it's those words of encouragement will carry a long ways.
That's a great way to end it, Chuck. That's great. It's been a great conversation with you. Everybody, make sure to head over to Friends of Chuck. I think you're on pretty much you're everywhere, right? Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. There you go. Boom.
That's
There's
right.
the logo. There is the logo. That
Yeah,
that that logo. Yeah, you see that? You're a friend of Chuck.
that's right. That's right. We take a few business cards we've collected and got to make a lot of great relationships out there. Listen, everybody be safe. Ted, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And remember, folks, just use common sense, right? And
Mm.
ultimately, that's your decision, and you'll have to obviously own that decision. We look forward to seeing you at the next conference, getting together and socializing as this CV-19 comes to hopefully a decrescendo and
Hopefully.
out of everybody's way to move on in life, right?
Absolutely. Thanks
All
again,
right.
Chuck. We'll talk to you
You
soon.
bet. Bye bye.